Hello, everyone. Ryan Rodriguez here again with another episode of Connecting Keelhaulers. Today, we are joined by Benjamin Potter, a GSMA grad from the class of 2017. Benjamin, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to share your experiences in your career as well as when you were at Cal Maritime.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Benjamin currently works as an underwriter at Intact Insurance Specialty Solutions in San Francisco, a position he's held since April 2019. So, Benjamin, we can start with your current role right now as an underwriter. So, what do you do as an underwriter, and what are kind of the type of clients or goods and services that you provide?
Yeah, so as an underwriter, my job is to represent the company and decide and select risks for that company that fit its profile. So, for example, in the ocean marine underwriting community, we write risks that are, shipping interests, where they're shipping commodities, containerized goods, non-containerized goods. The shipper is responsible for ensuring those risks while they are in transit. So we insure the goods while they're in transit and while they're in a warehouse as well. And then also we insure vessels and their crew and the passengers that may board them. And that includes the hull and the machinery. So the engines inside and the liability of the ship owner for injury to people that happen on board or to anyone around them, for collisions, for wreck removal. Say the vessel is stuck in a navigation channel, we'll have to pay for the removal of it. That's a good example. Yeah, we also other marine property that includes maybe a yacht club or a marina. So marinas have a care, custody, control exposure. If you park your boat in the marina, there's an exposure for them. And we also insure maybe ship repairs that do work on, in shipyards, and builder's risk while a vessel is being built. There's a policy that can be in place for something like that. And there's also some other more miscellaneous items that we can look at and underwrite individually in for ocean marine underwriting.
So yeah, you joined right out of college, and you went and you said to that underwriter trainee program. So what were kind of the benefits of kind of getting started in the industry through that route and really getting trained through a program like that? And like what did the program entail?
Yeah, so it was sort of an informal training program. Much of the training was on the job training. And then in addition to that, there were a lot of classes that I took. So when I first started, it felt like I was still in school to a certain degree, is because there's a lot of information to learn. So in the training program, I took the AINS classes that I took to get that designation. So the designation in our career it's a good thing to have. It's like a professional certification. It's not required to do the job, but it's like, a nice thing to have on your resume. So that was the first designation that I earned, was the Associate in General Insurance, which is the AINS designation. And then I also have the AMIM designation, which is a marine specific one that I earned after the first one. So now I'm working on another one called the CPCU, which is a larger designation. That's not necessarily ocean marine specific, but it's a degree, or not a degree, it's a designation that is, industry known. And it's like a good thing that shows that you have the kind of the book knowledge or the technical knowledge of underwriting.
Got it. It gives you a little bit of that credibility
Yeah.
to back things up. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of now thinking a little bit maybe back towards college and growing up and stuff, when did you start to see marine underwriting as a career you wanted to pursue? And then how did Cal Maritime prepare you for this position?
Well, I kind of stumbled upon it. Ocean marine underwriting was not necessarily on my radar. I think that's what most people will tell you in the
Yeah, I
industry.
imagine. I imagine.
It's like maybe I've heard somebody tell me, it's like, yeah, 9 out of 10 people maybe stumble into it. There are some schools that have programs that teach risk management, but it's kind of a smaller thing. But most people stumble into the industry, and that was the case for me. I saw a job posting. I think it was actually at the career services site, and clicked on it, applied, and went through a few different interviews, and ended up here. It was a really interesting career, as I soon found out, I did a little bit of research and read up on the history. There's a lot of interesting history. It goes back to, Lloyd's of London. Ocean marine underwriting is kind of like the first form of insurance there ever was.
Interesting. Hmm.
I think I may have to do some research, but I believe like the first ever insurance contract, was for a vessel that was moving goods somewhere. So it's kind of like the origin of underwriting started with ocean marine.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of interesting history, which is pretty cool to know when you're working the job. And it's also just a very intellectually stimulating job where you do a lot of critical thinking. So on my desk, I might get a new submission that I've never seen before, especially since I'm new. And there's a lot of great colleagues that I work with that have experience, and so I get to talk to them and learn something entirely new that I had never, touched on yet, even at CMA. So it's a job where I'm always learning something every day, and I think everybody I work with, learn something new too.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So I was checking out your LinkedIn before we popped on, and just kind of your history. So, and saw that you interned with both the Coast Guard and California State Lands Commission, which neither are really marine doing marine underwriting.
No, and
So,
yeah,
and that's how students are always like, I want to do something in intern in what I'm going to end up doing, and it's like you clearly didn't. So, kind of, what did you learn from those positions that you've taken into your career? So it's like it wasn't, necessarily maybe a waste, as some people might say, but you were still building skills.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think a lot of students, and I think I was that way. It's like A, B, C. It leads one thing leads to another, but yeah, the path isn't always straight. So the Coast Guard internship was great. That was a really cool opportunity. I was really interested in possibly joining the Coast Guard after graduation. Decided not to, but it was a really cool internship to get exposed to it, and that helped me figure it out, what I wanted to do, and that maybe it wasn't for me. And then the state lands internship was really cool because that was it's sort of more related to the minor in marine science that I was really interested at the time in school. And I had a great boss and a great team that I worked with there. And that was a job where critical thinking was also an important part, because part of what they do there at the Marine Invasive Species Program is they do research on ballast water movement and uh, you know compile data. So as an intern, I did a lot of data compiling in a big Excel sheet, and we use that information to help track the movement of ballast water, and from that data, making informed you know um, data driven, I guess the best way to say it would be like using that data to help drive policy decisions, because that's what they do at the State Lands Commission, is they make policy on whether you can discharge ballast at a certain spot, and also like basically rules that help reduce the spread of marine invasive species. It's kind of their main goal there. So that was a good job. I had a lot of fun there. They let us test out the ROV that they used to drive under the ship to do inspections of the hull to see, inspect for invasive species that are attached to the hull. So that was a pretty cool opportunity. And yeah, and they don't necessarily link to ocean marine underwriting, but I'd say that the skills that I've got from both those internships were just good career preparation. Or like it helped me realize how to operate in a professional environment, I guess, as opposed to working in a school environment, I guess, is the best way that I can explain it.
Yeah.
But they were both good opportunities, but yeah, they don't necessarily link to underwriting at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, but shoot, you still get definitely different, the people skills and communication, like you said, professional
Yeah.
experience that, like, even an on-campus job or something like that. It's a different environment when you know everybody around there and you see everybody day after day, in a bunch of different settings than the professional world. So yeah, I mean, those internships are big for kind of getting that first start, and like what's it like to be a quote unquote adult in the career world.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, you're not necessarily working with like your friends or people that you know already. You're meeting new people and learning how to, present yourself and introduce yourself, and that's a good, thing to have experience with before you maybe interview for, your career, your next step. So.
Yep, definitely, definitely. Still in college and stuff. What do you think are some things, or a thing that you wish you had done differently, and what were you maybe stressing about in college that you look back on it now and it's like I didn't maybe need to put as much thought into that as I thought at the time.
That's a good question. I don't think I have any like specific regrets. I think grades, everybody's definitely very focused on getting good grades. Um, but my my thought on that is that you shouldn't sacrifice grades at the expense of gathering experience and internships. So that's a great thing about the NPM program is that I think that's a requirement. You have to take a internship during your time there and get career experience because when you interview at a job, you can tell them that you have perfect grades, and that's a good sign for them. Helps you get your foot in the door, but they also want to see career experience or job experience. And I think that's what puts CMA ahead. I mean, we have a big training ship that gives students career experience in their field, and for the NPM program, it looks a little different. But I think that that requirement for us to go and do an internship is vital. So I actually ended up doing two internships. I had that Coast Guard internship that I was able to get after my freshman year, and then I did the international experience, and then I did the state lands. So I was able to just my goal was just to get as much career experience as I can, and that the school could help me get.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, no, I think that's good advice because sometimes students will be like, "Oh, can I do an internship even though it's not with the co-op requirement?" And it's like, yes, get as many,
you sure can, yeah.
yeah, exactly. No, nobody's stopping you even if it's not the school requirement. And like you said, it is that first foray into to job experience that employers are looking for just as much as the theoretical and book knowledge that
Mhm.
you're going to bring for sure. How was then your GSMA degree? Have you seen it like really be beneficial for your career?
I'd say specifically like the coursework is related, especially with cargo insurance because cargo is global. I think one of the first things you learn when you get at Cal Maritime, at least this was the spiel that they gave us when we first walked in, was 90%, right? 90% of all goods by value touch the sea,
Mhm.
moved by a ship at least at one point during that supply chain. So for cargo insurance, you might see a commodity. I might review a commodity that's being shipped from China through to the port of LA Long Beach, or it could be something more interesting or not standard. It could be passing through, um, you know, um, an area where there's maybe known piracy. So I mean, having an awareness of um, just the world and global trade is very helpful. And so that GSMA degree gives you exposure to that. So as an underwriter, you might, consider where are these goods traveling to, and what's the situation there between, the intermodal transit point, like where a good gets off and where it goes to, and you're trying to evaluate the exposure and see if that's a fit for your company's appetite.
Gotcha.
Uh, So I'd say the global degree is relevant there, but it might not be relevant when you're evaluating a whole P&I risk. So that's actually where licensed track students have, good experience. So half of probably the people I've encountered, maybe more in the marine underwriting world, are from the deck side.
Gotcha.
And then also NPM didn't exist. I think, how old is the program now? Like maybe 10 years old, 12
Mhm.
years old now, but a lot of the people that I meet, NPM program didn't exist at the time. But more the younger, more recent people that I know in the underwriting world are NPM. But there's also still deck. I think this was really nice. On my first day, I got a call from an alum. First day at work, from a guy, Joel. I think he graduated 2012, I think. I'm not sure, but he was deck where he went out to sea, and then transitioned to marine underwriting. And so he's really good at underwriting whole P&I risk. And I talked to him a lot for advice. And I mean, I have some exposure. I used to be a sailing instructor, so I know a lot about dinghies,
Yeah,
but
a little
that
different.
a little different. Yeah. So I mean, that's where it's a good job for licensed and non-licensed track students. There's strengths and weaknesses to both, and then you just learn a ton on the job. So having an awareness of what Coast Guard requirements are needed for the ship. It's important to know that what you're insuring is a safe vessel. That's what we look for, and the crew experience too. Making sure there's a qualified crew on board that is operating in a safe manner.
Okay, so when you're assessing things, you're not like you mentioned where the route's going in terms of like is there piracy around, but you're also assessing like crew experience, weather, like what the weather is like and stuff for the risk and so on and so forth.
Maybe not so much the weather. I mean, it's just kind of a known territory. It just comes with the territory. For cargo, what you evaluate, what goods are being shipped. Are you shipping doorbell switches, or are you shipping I don't know, hay or alfalfa, avocados, iPhones, or whatever? What are you shipping? The commodity has a big part of whether we accept the risk. The trade route, the value shipped, the loss history is really important. So what are the loss trends? And then there's a million other things too.
Yeah, don't worry, you don't got to get into everything.
Yeah, of course.
Sure.
But I just mentioned the piracy thing. I that doesn't really come up too much for me, but I just mention it because it is a thing that is looked at. For our company, we do cargo, but it's not our main thing.
Gotcha.
But the global degree does have good things that you learn in it, but I think the most important thing is just critical thinking skills. So the major gives you the opportunity to write a lot of papers. So I remember staying up late a lot of times writing papers, and in those papers you're arguing a point. And as an underwriter, you kind of argue whether you accept the risk or not. So you look at the pros and cons of each risk, and then you evaluate those to make an underwriting decision. But then when you're writing a paper as a GSMA student, you're using all the information that you have that you researched to come up with like your opinion in the paper, your thesis. So there's a lot of transferable skills from writing papers, and developing a strong argument to arguing whether you take a risk in underwriting or not. So.
I actually like how you touched on that, how it's like you got the critical thinking skills from Cal Maritime, and then once you get on the job, you learn the specifics about what that job entails. Because we do run into students, whether it be internship or even jobs, sometimes with like, man, like I don't know what like I don't know what they're gonna do, or what am I gonna do if I don't know what to do something. And that's something we always try and reiterate is like they're gonna teach you the fine points of your job,
Exactly.
So, cool.
Yeah, the material of the major, it's good knowledge to have. But the skills that you get, like the skills you use to evaluate that content, is what's more important, I think.
Yeah.
So.
What advice then would you give to students that are interested in marine underwriting? Are there like internships or things of that nature that current students could look into, or is that not really something that the field is doing for undergrads, and it's more a post-grad type thing?
I think that'll depend. It's a pretty small community of people in the marine underwriting world, especially in San Francisco. It's not a huge group of us. It's a very small field, but there's more than just underwriting too. There are surveys that you require more of an engineering background. There's claims departments as well. And so it's a little broader than underwriting. For underwriting specifically, I don't know of any internships out there right now, but I think that's a good thing. I think there is there's been a bit of an age gap in our industry where there's a lot of people that have been doing the job, and there haven't been a whole lot of new entrants. So I think in the future, in the next maybe 10 years or so, I think there's going to be a big need for new people to enter the industry and be trained. So I think it's going to be a growing thing for sure. I'm not seeing it right now, especially now with COVID. It's kind of difficult to take a new hire.
Yeah.
So I think that'll change, within the next year or so, hopefully. And I think there will be a need to have new people that get training and to do the job. But as far as internships, I don't know of any firsthand right now. But if you're interested in it, you can just read up on the history of underwriting, and I think that'll, help, keep maybe spark an interest, because it is interesting history. And also you can look into maybe designations. I know a lot of companies will pay for these designations, but if you're taking the marine insurance class, I think that's now an offering at Cal Maritime. I think that class is based off of the class that I took for work, where it's the Associate in Marine Insurance Management 121, which is like the ocean marine class. That's great material. That's like the one-stop shop for ocean marine underwriting. I think it covers most things in that book. So that's more of the technical side. But I think if you're a student, just, if you like solving problems and thinking critically, I think it'd be a good fit.
Gotcha. So as undergrads, the advice is do research and learn as much as you can, because there's not going to be those as many opportunities at that point. And so you're more prepared for post-grad after that. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'd say I was really lucky. There was an opportunity for a trainee program, which is probably the best opportunity you can get for entering, because they invest in you to train you, which is a great thing to take. So any sort of position that has training in there, or maybe, just entry level, there's the expectation that they will train you, and it's a valuable thing to have. So if they're willing to train you, definitely those are the good opportunities to take.
Yeah, no, if they're going to invest in you, then they're going to want to get something out of it. So that is
exactly
a good thing. What does a kind of, I guess for you, like a path forward look like from this point of where you're at looking into the future, career wise and stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for underwriting, there's definitely a lot of room up. So I was promoted after my trainee program as an underwriter, and there's different levels of underwriter within the company. And then there's also other opportunities at different companies where there's maybe different types of risks that they look at. So maybe at a different company, you can pivot and, start underwriting different types of risks, and you can get more experience that way. But the designations are a good thing to have. They give you credibility in the industry. But the company, once you start learning your fundamental underwriting skills, you can level those up and start looking at larger risks. So you can move up from maybe a single vessel to maybe a fleet of vessels that you can evaluate. So you can look at larger cargo accounts that, ship larger commodities, more commodities. So the complexity of risk can scale up. So you can start, evaluating, a basic risk where maybe it's a singleton vessel, and then you can move up to where you're evaluating maybe a fleet of vessels, and that adds complexity. And then there could also be something that's new, like I think I looked at something that I'd never seen before, where it was, there was a renewable energy power plant involved where they wanted to electrify a vessel. And so that brings new questions, like when you're repowering a vessel with lithium ion batteries, how does that change the risk profile? You could consider thermal runaway as an issue for electric batteries, lithium ion batteries. So if they're repowering a vessel with batteries, how does that, maybe change your rating? So there's new things that are happening. Autonomous vessels are kind of a big question out there now. How do you ensure a vessel that's not crewed, with somebody on board? Um, so questions like that will come up in the future, I think, and that'll be very interesting how those problems get solved.
Wait, what has been your favorite part of the job so far? And then on the flip side, what's kind of been the most challenging issues or things that you faced?
Yeah, I'd say the nicest part of the job is the face to face. Unfortunately, we don't do so much of that anymore, but it's a great group of people that I work with, not just at my company, but within the industry. And everybody I've met has been really, nice and willing to share what they know. Because there's a lot to know, especially for somebody that's new. So I think the wealth of knowledge that's out there and the willingness of people to share it was really cool. And also for the underwriting job, you need to, have you need to be able to work with clients and develop a relationship. That's what I want to say. Yeah, develop a relationship the uh, with the customer, with your broker, and have a good working relationship with them. Um, Insurance companies offer a similar product, so you need to differentiate yourself with you know between other companies with your service. So being easy to work with and timely and efficient is an important thing to have. So developing those relationships is pretty fun because you get to meet people and talk with them. And then for the not so fun part, I guess, sometimes filing, I guess, there's a lot of information. So you need to file your
Yep.
information away and make clear notes. Clear notes is being detail oriented is a very helpful quality trait to have for an underwriter. I think that's something we all strive to do while at our companies. We try to make sure we have clear notes for everything we do, but we all get busy, so that's just the thing that we always have to circle back and make sure we do.
Closing question, what benefits did you see the Corps giving you, the Corps cadets, as you entered the professional world?
Yeah, I think the core uh, the core was maybe in the moment felt like a chore to do. Um, maybe it's like, oh, why do I have to, make sure, I'll comply with all these uniform requirements. But in the end, it really helps you learn how to conduct yourself in a professional environment as well. Not just, in front of your professors or in front of your friends or, colleagues. Um, it helps you, show up places on time and dressed well. I think one of the first things they told me at O-Week was like on time is or early is on time and on time is late. And if you're late, then you, you just don't want to be there. So I showed up incredibly early to my interview. I remember I had so much time. I think I went and got coffee and I was relaxed and I just took my time and I wasn't stressed about being there on time. I was dressed well and that was kind of more automatic for me at that point because I was so used to waking up early for formation and just getting dressed quickly and on time. And it wasn't something that was stressing me out. I was more stressed out about the questions in the interview.
Mhm.
So I think showing up on time and prepared is what the core really helps you achieve.
Um, and with that, any final closing thoughts, words of advice, or anything for the current cadets?
I think you guys are learning very good remote working skills right now at CMA.
Yeah, definitely.
Those are really important actually. I mean, that's how I communicate with my colleagues. I haven't been in the office since a year now. It's been a full year since I've
Mhm.
touched my office in San Francisco. Um, so I mean, I think it's going to be a new normal. So I think learning how to be professional on Zoom calls or WebEx calls or whatever they are is good. But more than that, I think just trying to absorb your time at CMA and absorb the opportunities that it affords you. So career opportunities, internships, take every single opportunity you can. Don't pass them up. Um, and yeah, just to develop your critical thinking skills. It's college is a time to sort of expand your horizons a little bit, expand your way of thinking, getting exposed to new information. And those are the most important. So taking those skills and transferring them to a job, I think those are important things.
Yeah, no, I like what you said about risk. I always have viewed college as like that last place where you get to have a lot of low risk opportunities
Yeah,
where, it's not going to necessarily harm you. And it's a great, like you said, chance to kind of spread your wings, learn new things, try different things, so on and so forth. So awesome. Well, Benjamin, thank you so much for sitting down for a little bit. Any students, if any of you want to reach out to Ben, LinkedIn, Benjamin Potter, search his name. He'll answer some questions if you have it on marine underwriting or any other parts maybe of the industry as best he can at least. So
sure.
yeah, Ben, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, and thanks for inviting me.